Hello, welcome to another episode of Film Club. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host Tate and the Hour, and today, if you've seen the title, we'll be reviewing Ridley Scott's 2012 sci-fi film Prometheus. For those of you who don't know, Film Club is our smaller midweek show where we review our recommended movie from the end of the main show. And this week it was your decision, obviously following our show of The Martian, and wow, you went straight into it with... yeah, you went straight to it with Prometheus. Now, usually I'll start off these shows just saying what were some of the reasons for picking it, and because the movies we pick for Film Club always have to tie in somehow. I think it's pretty self-explanatory this week. I'm guessing you went off the Ridley Scott and sci-fi route with this one.
Both that and the fact that throughout the entire episode we were kind of comparing to and ripping into Prometheus. So I thought, you know what, we'll review it fully. It'll be good to do that.
Yeah, and it's very rare with Film Club so far, because I think so far on the channel, the ones that we've reviewed, we always tend to go with ones that we both like, or one of us likes at least. This, I have to say, is probably the first one where I know we both have pretty strong opinions on this film, negative opinions mostly. And as you said before we hit record, we should probably get the positives out of the way first. Before we do that though, I want to sort of just start, I always tend to start off reviews like this, what our thoughts were before seeing it, if you can cast your mind back to 2012. For me, it was very much shrouded in mystery, and this is, I think, will be one of the biggest difference between me and you, is that I had never actually seen Alien or Aliens or any of the Alien franchise really before I saw this film. No. So there were rumblings about space jockeys, and I was like, okay, what's that? But I was aware of the Alien link to it. Now, my knowledge of Alien at that time was that I was aware of the chestburster scene, I knew of the face hugger, and I knew what the xenomorph looked like, and obviously Ripley, but I'd never actually seen the films. So when before the main trailer came out, there was a sweet teaser trailer that came out, which was just sort of Guy Pearce, who I can't remember the name of the organisation. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's
Wayland. It would have been
Wayland. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's sort of giving this conference about this venture that's going to be happening into outer space, I think, and that was a really cool marketing tactic, I think. And you was mentioning earlier as well that there was a website that went with it or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite similar to the Jurassic World website, if anyone's seen that. It was very interactive. You could go have a look at the stuff. I'm not sure whether it's actually there anymore. I'll have a quick look in a second. But it was really good. It was really well done. The marketing done by the team was incredible. I mean, amazing. And I've just had a look now, and it's been replaced by a Prometheus 2 website.
Oh, yeah, and I actually wanted to get onto that later on, but I guess I can bring it up now that Ridley Scott's confirmed that he would like to go ahead, whether it's still him directing or just in a producing role, he'd like to go ahead with the Prometheus 2, 3 and 4, so sort of in a similar way to what Avatar's going as well. And there's been a few people, there's been a few rumblings that maybe he's doing that to sort of dissuade, is it Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9? He's got the rights, I think, to direct the next Alien film, which he wanted to make it as a sequel to Aliens and sort of write 3 and 4 out of continuity.
And I mean, from the concept art, it looks amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely, and we'll get onto that later with this one as well. That visually and like the conceptual design was still phenomenal, I thought.
Yeah.
But we'll get a bit into it more now. So the main trailer comes out, and again, because I didn't know of Alien, I didn't know that the trailer was replicating the original theatrical trailer for Alien, where it almost sounds like a siren or a scream, and it's like very sort of methodical and staggered, and it builds towards the end, and it's the letters slowly fading onto the screen. It says Prometheus, and right there it was it just built that mystery, and you was like, oh, Prometheus, what's this? It's like this mysterious prequel to Alien. We're going to find out how everything was set up. So right there, I was basically sold on the trailer. At the time, Ridley Scott's direction carried quite a lot of clout until he had a few duds just slightly before and after that.
I feel like this may have been the nail in the coffin, really.
Yeah, because before this one he did Robin Hood, didn't he? And that
was okay.
one
Mixed reviews on that one, but
It was an okay film, but as a Robin Hood film, I think that's where it fell down. Because to me, that wasn't a Robin Hood film. And then this one was sort of another step back. And then after this, you had Exodus, which was sort of the pits for him at this stage. But based on trailers and everything like that, I went into it with an open mind. As I say, I hadn't seen Alien or Aliens before, so I wasn't really knowledgeable about the world. And because of that, I knew that there would be parts of the film where there'd be a reference to something or a visual cue to something, and that would go completely over my head. But I think I picked up on most of them, but I'm guessing by the sounds of it, you were already, before you saw this film, a big Aliens fan.
I was. My dad made me watch Alien when I was quite young, and it terrified me. I thought it was an amazing film, but it kept me up at night. I mean, it was the original sci-fi horror film, and you've got to think from that, with its sequels as well, maybe not Alien 3 and Alien 4 Resurrection, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Alien and Aliens were two brilliant films, and when you have a huge fan base riding on the hopes of, like, oh my god, they're going to do a prequel to these films, this is going to be amazing. I mean, with the trailers coming in as well and being amazing, like the marketing, once I said again, the marketing for this film was absolutely incredible. I was hyped. I was really hyped, and it was the first film in a long time that I'd actually, like, pre-planned to go see. I was going to go see it in 3D. I was going to go on a certain day. I think it was the second day of screening, so I was really up for this film.
Yeah, definitely, and now I hear the word prequels and I just shudder because it seems that there can never be a good one made. But yeah, so we'll get into the more nitty-gritty of it now. Guess we can give general opinions. If you can't tell, I kind of hated this movie. I found it very forgettable. I don't think it lived up to anything that was promised. It posed all of these questions, so many questions, and it really... The film itself, if you look at it as a standalone piece, really didn't amount to anything. It leaves a lot open-ended. Some things are never referred to, brought up and just dropped, and I kind of blame that. One, if they were going into the attitude where they expected they would get sequels from it, which is always like a method of filmmaking I really hate. Like, make good standalone movies. You can make sequels, but I like it when a sequel... Sort of like Terminator. You can see Terminator 1 as its own thing, but also Terminator 2 stands on its own as well. And I partially blame Damon Lindelof for that. For any of you who don't know, he was one of the writers that worked on Lost. And if you can think of a TV show that built up loads of questions and never answered any by the end, it would probably be Lost. So I think that was a big part of it. I just think it's a really forgettable movie. Like, even now, like, I remember small little bits from it, but like the intricate details, it's just... There's no staying power with it. You think back to Alien, and the character of Ripley is one of the most iconic female characters, I would say, in film history. Certainly in the action genre. And with this, there's just nothing. The only character...
Can we even remember the name of Noomi Rapace's character, like, now?
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember the names of anyone in this film. I just remember performances, and the only performance that really sort of stood out for me at the time was Micheal Fassbender playing the android.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he played an android. I know it's sometimes you think, oh, it's not difficult to play a robot. All you've got to do is just kind of do the whole blank expressions, no emotion, like cold-driven performance. So for most actors nowadays, that's quite easy. But at the time, seen as it was the only performance, I would say, from the film, all the other actors were just kind of there getting their paycheck.
And with Micheal Fassbender as well, I'm not even sure if I'm meant to be rooting for the guy, because he flip-flops between like being a good guy and the entire catalyst for being the villain of the entire film. So as such, I'm sort of left questioning whether or not we were meant to connect with his character or not. And by the end of the movie, I still can't even make my mind up. I don't even think the film knows where its mind's at. But
what they tried to do there was they tried to emulate the same kind of feelings that you had with the androids from Alien and Aliens. In Alien, the android is the first villain. He's the one who is basically trying to get the alien back to Earth so they can study it and stuff like that. He's the one who set them on the course to the planet. And in Aliens, the android is actually the one who saves Ripley's life. So it's she doesn't trust the android in Aliens, yet she trusted the android in Alien and paid for it. So that's what they're trying to emulate there, but it just did not work because there was none of the characters in that film had any experience with the android beforehand. So,
my knowledge and memory of Alien and Alien still may be a bit shaky. I've seen both of them obviously since then. Now I own both of them, but I've only seen each of them once, so I'll definitely need to get back to them and get more repeat viewings. But we'll get into this more now. So we'll move into the casting and just the cast in general, really. So we'll kick off with that
ensemble cast. I mean, they picked out some brilliant names for the film.
You have some fantastic talent in this film. Not only do you have, Noomi Rapace, she was in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I haven't seen those films, but I've heard nothing but positive things from those films and her performance. Micheal Fassbender, obviously, classic actor, one of the best talents we've got working in the business today. Guy Pearce, Charlize Theron as well. I mean, even recently this year we've seen her in Mad Max Fury Road, and everyone seems to love her performance in that film. She's a really good actress. It was just purely the material was just, there was just nothing there. There was nothing for these people to work with, and before we hit record I was sort of like refreshing myself of who was in the film. I'd completely forgot that Idris Elba was in the film.
Yeah.
Because he just plays like a sort of just no-name captain. Yeah, he's the captain of the ship, but he doesn't really have any identity. But this is the thing with Idris Elba, even if he's not in a great movie, he's always one of the best things in it. And I remember the scenes he was in liking his character, but there's none of those moments of humanity with each other. Like, you remember back in Aliens where you get introduced to the team, the military team, and each one of them has personalities. And I was talking about this as well. I think it must have been in our Martian one, where I was referring to Predator as well. At the start of the film you get that 5-minute scene where they're all in the helicopter and they all get given identities. Even if it's not loads, there's something about the characters that you remember, or lines from them. Nothing like that in this. And what I can really compare this film to is just sort of like, it's almost like a B-movie horror film. Like, every single character in this film is just sort of lined up for the meat grinder. You don't like anyone, you hate everyone, you want to see them die, and they keep making stupid decisions so that when it does happen you just think, well, you know, fuck, I had it coming.
Yeah.
So
we'll get back to the we'll go back to the point of the B-movie horror thing in a second.
Definitely,
but I've just read here that Charlize Theron was meant to play the main character, but she had prior commitments to Fury Road, and that prevented her from having the filming time.
And that just shows you how long Fury Road took, because I think they were just inundated with like problems, weren't they? I know that the place where they were filming, I think they were filming in Australia, where the other Mad Max ones were filmed. They had a flood or something like that, so they had to literally move to like Africa, I think, in a desert there, and refilm there. I know it had a lot of problems, but I thought, I mean, Noomi Rapace is a great actress. We've just said like everyone is strong in this film, but it's just a question of character. It's storytelling 101. Give me a compelling story with likeable characters, or characters I can understand or go on this journey with, and you should have a good movie with that. With this, there was no story really. It was just sort of, if I'm thinking of the plot, this team of scientists go to this uncharted planet to study it. They make stupid decisions like touching an alien creature that they know looks evil. Things go wrong. People get possessed.
Was he the biologist? And he goes and just touches the alien life form, and without any kind of prior quarantine or like exterior study, he's just like, oh, it must be like a cat. I can go pet it and stroke it. And no, that's stupid.
And surprise, surprise, what happens? It eats his face off, and it's like, well, of course it does. And I mean, this might be a bit of a scattered review here because, you know, we're just like referring to bits that were nonsensical or stupid. But you're right. Like it was another bit as well, is where they walk into that temple with the big stone statue head and all the urns in the middle. Yeah. And the guy just immediately takes his helmet off. Like, they haven't studied if the air's breathable or not. And I think Noomi Rapace's character refers to that fact. And he just goes, meh, okay, just takes the helmet off, bops it off, doesn't know if there's any bacteria or if he can even breathe on that planet.
It's
That's
ridiculous.
A stupid mistake.
Although all these problems wouldn't have happened if the, geologist, the guy who throws the mapping thing in the air, gets lost in a cave.
And he was the one with the map.
I know. Out of everyone to get lost in the cave, it had to be the guy with the map. to get out of the cave.
Yeah, and it's this stupid comedy duo of these guys wandering around these caves, not knowing where the hell they're going, and it keeps cutting from the people into the ship, cutting back to them, and that's the bit that you were talking about where they find that it's like an alien worm thing, isn't it, that comes out.
Maybe this film could have done better if it didn't take itself so seriously. If it was targeted as a comedy film, it may have actually been a good film. People would have been laughing. Maybe they would have hated the fact that it was an alien prequel, but they could take that as like the comedy of it.
Well, that's one thing I was going to say. I think as well as being just like a bland film with just terrible story and terrible characters, I think one of the things that that hurts this film's right out of the gate is the fact that it promises to be an Alien prequel.
Yes.
And in many respects, it really wasn't. There were a few scenes. The very, very final shot of the film was obviously, that to me screamed like a studio thing saying you've got to get a xenomorph in there somewhere. So it's sort of like really just haphazardly shoehorned in at the end like a little baby xenomorph by the looks of it. It doesn't even look like a proper xenomorph. I don't know if it's like a hybrid
as they've explained, it has to go through another human before it can become the xenomorph we are used to.
Okay, that's one thing I want to talk about in this film as well, is how these species come about, because I really don't understand.
I can explain that because in Empire they did an issue where it was like how Prometheus was meant to work, where they actually, it took them about a year to write this, so they actually worked out how it was meant to work. So basically you have to get a human pregnant with the alien, like basically genes like in it. Then you have to extract that from the human, and you have to get the engineer to breed with it, whether it's forceful or not. Then, once that xenomorph is made, that then needs to breed with another human to basically make the new alien, which would be the alien from the film Alien. As Empire explained it, they said that all of the, in the original Alien film, all of the eggs in the abandoned ship, which looks like the ship from Prometheus, the flying, flying croissant or something like that. I called it
a horseshoe, but I like the flying croissant better.
All of the eggs in the flying croissant are the engineers breeding with the xenomorph we saw at the end of the film. That's how Empire explained it. And even then, there was still a few comments saying, no, that's wrong. And they said, well, we tried. We spent a year on this. Give us some break. Like,
yeah, but even then, it still seems very logical. Like, the engineers, for, you know, people listening, if you haven't seen the film, are... This, by the way, this review is going to make absolutely zero sense to you if you listen to it without seeing the film. But, they look like Kratos from God of War, if anyone's played that video game. Or... more prominently in film, Azog the Defiler, the big pale orc from the Hobbit films. They're these big lumbering
Yeah, I'd say Kratos without any war paint and
naked.
Yeah,
definitely. And they're these big, like, 10, 12 feet tall, bald,
they've been to the
pale
gym a bit
beings.
too much.
Yeah, and apparently, I can't even remember the exact percentage, but apparently it's like 99% close to humans. And I'm like, how? Okay, like... Okay, I get how...
Don't forget the fact that they're grey.
Yeah, it's like, DNA sequencing, okay, but... Come on, these are not 99% close to us. These are a completely fucking different species. But apparently... I'm trying to think of the breeding thing now. I don't want to harp on this point too much, but it was really just all over the place.
I've come up with the perfect kind of description of it. If anyone's seen the film Watchmen, it is like a grey Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, that's a good example as well. And... I can't even remember how it comes about. Like, doesn't someone gets infected and then breeds with Noomi Rapace? And by the way, I want to get onto this scene now as well.
Wait a sec. I can explain it straight off the bat right now. So, the lead female character, Noomi Rapace, gets infected by Micheal Fassbender.
By a boyfriend,
by her boyfriend on the ship, who gets infected by having his finger contaminated, like his drink contaminated by Micheal Fassbender's android character dipping his finger containing the alien genes in his drink. And that scene, to make it even worse, he can see the fact that the android is dipping his finger in his drink.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't drink that, would you? You'd say, what have you done to my drink? I mean, with a character that you can't trust in the first place, you see him dipping something into, like, your food or your drink. You wouldn't eat that, you wouldn't drink that.
But Tate, you're forgetting, every character in this film is stupid.
Yeah.
so yeah, and then eventually she gets contaminated, infected, and she knows that something's growing inside of her. So she gets into this machine that is kitted out for only male patients. It's like this medical booth machine she lies into, which for some reason is in Charlize Theron's personal quarters. Like,
Yes.
why would she have this machine that only works for male patients in her room? Is she a guy? Is this? I was watching the movie and I was like, is this like a character quirk? Is this like a plot point? I don't know. It's the only reason it's there is because Ridley Scott wanted a really grim and grisly scene to evoke memories of the chestburster scene.
Yes.
That's how I see it. So.
However,
she sets
they cannot do stomach staple surgery, right?
Yeah. Basically, she can't have a machine that does a cesarean. So I think it's for. Is it a removal of an appendix? She
Yes.
types it in for. Which, by the way, right there. No, that wouldn't be exactly the same as a cesarean.
Oh,
so
no.
you've lost me completely there. So it like just fucking like cuts her open with like a scalpel, and like this crane game machine claw comes down and just rips this little squid thing out.
You have won a squid.
Yeah, and then
Collect your prize in the bottom.
it's like the most crudest medical machine I've ever seen in my life, and then like the staple gun just comes down and just like staples her
The
stomach
staple
back
gun
together.
would kill her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
but...
oh, by the way, all of this without anaesthetic.
Yep.
Or any painkillers or any number of any kind. So straight after this, she's had like this massive invasive surgery that would, you know, you'd be bedbound for like a month after this, or even more probably.
She starts walking.
Straight after this, she's walking. She's running through corridors. She's running away from croissant ships.
Oh, can I please do the zinger of just... We'll finish off this scene by saying she walks into a room, bleeding, stomach staple just done, and the people don't care.
Yeah. And I don't even think she even brings it up, does she? Like, what just happened?
No.
She's just really just like nonchalant about it, because then straight after that, she meets up with Guy Pearce in old guy makeup, and then they go and see the engineer who whispers something and then punches Micheal Fassbender's head off. By the way, I know me explaining this makes no sense, but seriously, watch the film. It will also make no sense.
That is the film.
We never know what the engineer says to him. Whether they'll bring this up in a sequel, I have no idea. And then the movie basically ends with Noomi Rapace taking Micheal Fassbender's severed head into a croissant ship and flying away into the horizon. And that's basically the film. So already I'm completely lost, and it's not because I've only seen the film once. There are many films I've only seen once and can remember the plot and understand the plot completely. This one didn't have one, and it's just scenes like that I was talking about, and more. And then straight after, by the way, just going back to that the stomach surgery thing, it's the squid that's pulled out is just like, it's like a regular sized squid, isn't it? Just pulled out of her. And then all of a sudden, when she's running away from the engineer at the end in the big climax of the film, it fills the room. It's like it's like it's been on growth hormones or something. It's like this roided out squid, this roided out CGI squid in the room that just devours the engineer. And I guess we can move on to other stuff now, like the visuals and concept design. There are a lot of practical effects and stuff in this film. The things that rub me up the wrong way, and I'll always say this, is the overuse of CGI. And I remember at the time that end squid in the room being god awful.
It looked like bad sushi.
Yeah, definitely. And but everything else, like even the nonsensical scene of the croissant ship rolling down after them, they're running away from it. It's very cinematic. It looked awesome in the trailer, but then you sort of watch it in the film and think, well, why not run to the side and avoid it?
To be honest, I have to give the crew credit for that, because I work in a coffee shop and I have dropped a croissant before, and that is exactly how they roll. So they did good job on the research there, on the physics of croissant-shaped spaceships.
And I want to say, actually, those ships, those particular shaped ships, were they in Alien? I can't remember
Yes,
those particular ships.
at
Yeah.
the start of Alien, you see an abandoned croissant ship, but you think, cool, sci-fi ship. With this, they made it look slightly... They kind of tried to emulate it, but it didn't really look right, because in the first one, in the first film, they say it looks like half the ship is still there, and it is the croissant shape, so they obviously didn't do their research on that part of the film. They've gone off with their own random croissant-shaped ship.
You know how when you have like a big film like this with like loads of conceptual design and stuff that needs to go into it, creature design, whatnot, and they always make like the little marquettes. I would love to see Ridley Scott walk into a room and one of their research products was a croissant, and that was inspiration to make one of the ships. That would have been amazing.
Well, do you know what? We all know that, like, they had, in that room, what happened was they had all this, like, cast and crew, they had a croissant, they had what looked like a ship from Avatar as their main ship, and they had fish bowls, which they used for the helmets for all the astronauts.
And all this whilst eating sushi.
Yes.
And that was the inspiration for the gigantic squid at the end. But no, like besides that, if you're looking at it from like a visual standpoint, I think it still stands more or less toe to toe with the Alien films as well.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, you have that big room with the big stone statue head I was talking about with all the urns, and it's this very eerie, it's almost like a shrine, isn't it? Like a godlike room they walk into. And I remember one of the awesome nods, and even if we hadn't have seen a xenomorph in the film, this would have been good enough for me. They see this sort of like carved circular plaque on the wall.
Yeah.
And there's what looks like, you know, the Da Vinci sketch, the Vitruvian Man. It looks like that, but in the shape of a xenomorph. And I thought that was really cool, like a really cool nod, and everything like that, design-wise. Even I talked about the iffy effects on the squid, but one of the best effects, I didn't actually see this movie in 3D, but I bet it would be phenomenal. It's when she walks into the ship, and it's either Noomi Rapace's character or Micheal Fassbender, where they activate the console on the ship, and this big sort of like neon globe solar system map section comes up, and it looks absolutely incredible.
He picks up the globe. Yeah, I saw it in 3D, and I have to say that bit was pretty good. But then again, at the end of the film, I did rip up my 3D glasses.
Oh,
so
this film hurt you.
This film hurt me a lot.
This film hurt you more than me. As I said, I didn't really have any fond attachments to the Alien franchise.
Had you seen the Alien films before you watched it, or?
No, that's what I'm saying. This was my first sort of entry.
I'm pretty sure that they had to clean up a lot of ripped up 3D glasses, because I keep all my 3D glasses from all my films. In fact, I am sat here next to the ripped up 3D glasses that I've got here, and yeah.
I love how you keep the ripped up glasses as well.
Hey, I love. Do you know what? This is my own personal movie memorabilia, because I've actually got written on the side Prometheus 2012 in permanent
It's almost
ink.
like you need like a field somewhere with like all broken like 3D glasses of like movies, like a memorial. No, but as I said, like I know we wanted to go into positives first, really, and we gave into our anger, unfortunately. But if we are going to give a positive, visual and conceptual wise, I thought it was amazing. Equal to Alien and Aliens. As I said, though, the thing that lets it down isn't so much the acting, because we know that every single actor in this film can act. It was a script issue, I think. I think the script could have... And I think the entire story, to be honest, and the script should have gone through a few more rewrites. This, to me, felt like a very rushed, rough,
to be honest,
first draft.
I wouldn't have cared if it was, like, not an Alien film. If they'd have cut all ties off to the Alien franchise and just gone from the universe that is Alien, like, from the same universe, maybe, without having to have, like, a xenomorph at the end of it, I would have been fine with it. It would have been an okay film. I wouldn't have said, oh yeah, I'll go watch that again. I would have said, oh, it's interesting. Some points which could need improving on. Some points where it was quite good. But the fact that they tied it into Alien and anchored it down by Alien brought it down for a lot of the viewers. And I saw a lot of disappointed faces in there. So.
Yeah, and another thing, like, the last point I sort of made about tying it back into Alien, the whole thing with the space jockey, when I saw screenshots of that, I thought that was an alien creature. Well, what we found out now is actually a helmet from like the engineers or whatever, that to me felt like it was an organic creature, and that was just the way their heads looked. But it turns out that it's just a suit of armor. I think that cheapens the reveal a little bit in Alien. But and one thing I just want to say as well, like punctuate this, that if you are going to do a prequel to a famous franchise, I don't need it to constantly keep tying into the previous franchise. Like one of my biggest problems with The Hobbit is the constant like name drops and lines and references to the Lord of the Rings, because to me, I'm not going to go into a Hobbit review now, but to me that takes away from The Hobbit being its standalone property. Like, The Hobbit should be able to stand on its own, as its own films, as should Lord of the Rings. So I don't need lines in there like, you should go north, there is a ranger there that you must meet, in the wild he is known as Strider. It's like, lines like that.
Yeah.
It's like, the Lord of the Rings is better than this, that's why we need to keep referring to it. So, I wouldn't mind if this was a completely new thing, as long as, again, it was a compelling story with characters that we could go with on this journey, and that, okay, if you know that you're going to have a trilogy or whatever, you don't need to answer every single question, but you need to still make the film have a satisfying payoff and come full circle, whether that's a character arc or a story point. But it was literally just one of the most meandering stories I've ever seen, nonsensical. And if you ask me to break down the plot right now, as I was showing earlier, I was telling you things that were happening in the plot, but I have no idea what they mean. And at this stage now, I mean, this film came out in 2012, and I guess we can sort of end the review here with the future, like with Prometheus 2, 3, and 4. Do you think anyone cares at this point? I mean, I'm looking at the budget here. It made 403 million off a budget of 120, so it was somewhat of a success, but I mean, people really don't talk about this movie anymore. It's had no sort of impact on anyone like Alien or Aliens did.
People talk about it, but not in a positive light. I've got friends who have outright refused to see any more films directed by Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
So,
which is a shame, because The Martian's really, really good.
Yeah, I would suggest The Martian to them, but I would definitely not suggest Prometheus. I'd say if you're going to go watch it, you would go watch it in IMAX 3D. That would be quite a good experience to watch. You could possibly stick your fingers in your ears for the 2-hour duration, and you might get a nicer experience. But if people are saying, "Oh, should I buy it on DVD? Should I watch it on Netflix?" No, you get that thought out of your head. Go sit in the corner. Go now. Nope, you're a naughty step. Go.
But it's like, I just don't know what the future is for these films. Like, people who have seen it and don't care about it, I don't see them going to see a Prometheus 2. I mean, I would, obviously, if I was doing a review for it, I'd still check them out, because that curiosity would always be there. If it promised to answer some of the unanswered questions from this, maybe after seeing a Prometheus 2, 3 or 4, it might enhance my enjoyment somewhat of Prometheus 1 when I know where it goes. But you shouldn't have to do that. The film should be able to stand on its own, and it purely doesn't. So, if I'm going to go with my final thoughts now, would I recommend the movie?
No.
No, I don't think I would. If you're a sci-fi fan, there are so many better sci-fi films out there. Even sort of sci-fi horror movies or thrillers. Just go back and watch the first 2 Aliens. Hell, I've never even seen them, but I would probably rather watch Alien 3 or 4 over this, because at least they have somewhat of a plot.
In fact, I would list this in the category of films where you turn off your brain for 2 hours and don't really care about anything in the world. It's the kind of market that the Fast and the Furious films are aiming at right now. So, if you wanted to watch a sci-fi film that you want to just turn your brain off to, watch this, because it's pointless and useless. And I'd say, for the future of Aliens and Alien and that franchise, I probably want to say Blomkamp. That's the only future it's going to get that's going to be positive.
And it's a real shame how it's all gone, because the talent in this film, and Ridley Scott as well, like, I'm not going to completely write him off as a director. I think he's a very good director. I think it all depends on the material that he's given to work with. He's very hit and miss recently as a director, although The Martian was great. I just don't want to see this continue. It's almost like Avatar with me. Avatar, I believe, came out 2009, I want to say. And we still haven't got a sequel to that. We know that they're coming, all three of them are being filmed back to back. I want to say a 2017, 18 and 19 release. But to me, like just the gap between films, I think it just takes out a lot of the momentum between them if it's not a big franchise as it is. And Prometheus...
People have forgotten already.
Yeah, people have forgotten already, and I don't see that changing. I don't see people being hyped, and I do think that unless the trailer was incredibly engaging and got people in the cinema, I can see it being a huge flop, to be honest, and I don't think it has a future as a franchise. And we ended on a real downer there, which is well, it's no, you know what? No, it's not a shame because this film was crap.
Sometimes you just gotta kind of speak shit about films.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, and you know, I'm sure there's some people out there that enjoy it. So, yeah, be sure. That's basically our review for Prometheus.
Hold on, if you do enjoy it, can you please comment and tell us why you enjoy it, so we can, like.
I want to know.
Yeah, I want to know as well.
Maybe this is like an artistic film that just needs to be seen multiple times to just comprehend the majesty behind it, and I'm just not getting it.
Maybe you need to be high to watch it.
That would help quite a lot. Maybe you'd see the end ship as an actual croissant if you were high, which would be amazing.
You know, I'm hungry for a croissant now. I know it's the evening, but I want one.
We should be endorsed by some kind of pastry or bakery right now. I just keep but yeah, no. If you liked Prometheus, if you didn't like Prometheus, comment below, rate, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff,
Thank
and
you
follow
for
the channel.
tuning into Croissant Club.
Yeah, I'm going to change the name of this. I'm not even going to call it Prometheus Movie
Or you
Review.
just call it Film Club with croissants.
Yeah, we that should be a thing. For every film club now, we should have a croissant on hand.
You can donate a croissant online.
Donate $1. But no, rate, like, comment, subscribe, get involved with the channel. We'll be bringing you loads more regular reviews in the future. You can find us at Facebook at facebook.com/cinemasavvy. We're on Twitter at twitter.com/cinema_savvy. And we're also on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/cinema_savvy. In terms of reviews coming up in the future, there will be a Macbeth review going up this week. George came back for that review, so he's going to come back for sort of like the one-off films or the ones that we don't get to on the main channel, so that will be going up sometime this week. And for our main show, also we'll have the rundown of the news at the end of this week as well coming out, roundup of the week in movie news. And then next week's main show, we're undecided whether to do Everest or The Walk.
Yeah.
We know that Everest has been out for a while, especially here in the UK. I think the US got it last week, but The Walk is sort of the new release of that next week, so that might be one to do. I've been hearing mixed reviews from it, but I think it's just one of those films that you have to go and see once in the cinema, especially in 3D.
I feel like Avatar.
Because then you can say you've seen it in the medium it was intended for, whether you liked it or not. Like for me, that was Gravity as well, because I had to go and see that, and that is a 3D experience I'll never forget, even though I didn't really care for the movie. No. But who knows, it's Robert Zemeckis, it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, so it may be a great film. So if we do get to that, we'll post that on our Facebook and Twitter pages to let you know what we're reviewing. But until then, thanks very much for listening.